Well, I love a great before and after, a makeover that turns into something really elegant. So going back in time, I went to a local thrift store and I found an old wreath that was pretty, let's just say it was a little bit tacky. It was, it had faux pumpkins on it, lots of plastic was exposed, but nevertheless, I could see that it really had good potential. So let's go back to the thrift store. I'll show you what it looked like originally, how I brought it home and started my creative process working in terms of deconstructing it and what I thought I could do with it. And then we'll put this beautiful tablescape together. This is the kind of thing when I say you could deconstruct it, because look, this has great stuff in it, Stuart. So this was $6.98, so this would be $3.50, and for that, look at how many of these golden gourds you could get, some pine cones that are gold, lots of foliage. I don't know that I would use it as a wreath, but it's got lots of deconstruction potential. And again, even if I never used this again, I could just re-gift it. And for $3, what do you think?
Pretty nice.
Pretty good? Okay. It's just one of those kind of things that I seem to be getting rid of versus bringing home. But it had so much potential because once I started thinking about taking it apart, I thought, these look really elegant, don't they, Stuart? I think they look expensive and they look like they're metal instead of styrofoam or whatever it is. So I've got these here and I am just going to take them apart. But I can see putting these all together in a container and really making it look très elegante. And I also love the fact that the burnished look of them makes them look old. Do you know how I like old? That one is fighting me, Stuart. So that would be, I guess, the first layer. Oh, here's one more. So yeah, so I always like to have things in odd numbers. So this will be I'll have 5 of these. And I'll show you guys, obviously, as it gets to be the season. Now, another thing I like about them is they look so real. So they've still got some of the embellishments on them that would be on one that you just picked. So maybe putting those together, and look, they look beautiful with this. If I wanted to do something like this for a Thanksgiving table, that would be gorgeous, wouldn't it? Maybe with some of that sage green. I will take the pine cones off, and I can always use the pine cones somehow by separating the elegant kind of from the tacky. What that does, it makes it look much more monochromatic. In my head, this is what my little strange mind of mine was doing, Stuart, that you so worry about how my brain works. Now for another layer, so then at this point, I like it much better now without all that additional stuff on there. I could use it as a wreath at this point. I kind of don't like these cheesy berries on there, so I would probably take those off. And I'd probably take this last pine cone off. But I do love the way that all looks. So I'd probably take this off. And then at this point, I'm not sure what I would do with the rest. I could also take off these leaves. Here is another idea. I could take off these leaves. And I think like this, I think they look kind of tacky. But what I could do is I could spray paint them to match this tableau, or I could spray paint them in that beautiful sage green that is going to be, I think, my color muse for Thanksgiving this year. Maybe with just a hint of gold, and then use these on each napkin with people's names on them. I have transformed something like this into something I think really beautiful. I can't remember how much this was. I want to say it was maybe $3.50. So look, this entire tableau then was under $10. Not bad, huh?
Not bad.
Not bad at all. Now this is where the fun begins. So you saw me cut away from the wreath form these pumpkins. I took off the pine cones. I basically deconstructed it. And I did that for a couple of reasons, but primarily because I wanted to do a little bit of a makeover on the frame itself, which to me looked tacky. There were lots of structural elements that were exposed. I could see the wire, I could see some white abrasion on the berries, I could see all sorts of things that to me made it look kind of cheap and tacky. I wanted this to look carved and elegant and have heft and weight to it. All I did to get that effect was get a couple cans of spray paint. Now I got 2. I could have used a variety of different spray paints, but I found these 2. And by the way, I have noticed when I shop at Home Depot or just whatever source you use for your spray paints, they may not have a very good selection right now. I have really found it to be hit or miss. So I actually got these online, and I will put the links to both of these below. I used a hammered black, and I used vintage gold because I wanted some sheen, but really not too much, not like a really bright metallic gold. So I used these 2, and all I did then was spray this form, this wreath form. And then I kind of contorted it to just configure kind of what I had in mind. Now I had this brass, this was also a thrifted find, Stuart. I don't know if you remember it. When I bought it, it had just a glass bowl in it. So I took the glass bowl out and I just used this as kind of a framework and kind of a vessel to hold these already metallicized gourds and pumpkins and things of that nature. Now by spray painting all of this with this vintage gold and a little bit of this hammered black, I really made it look so much more expensive. It almost looks like it's real metal, like it could be brass or something. No longer do you see the little white peeking out on the abrasions of the berries or some of the green floral tape that was used to compose the wreath itself. I just placed it over this frame. You could use anything. Stuart, you probably have some kind of cake stand or something at home that you would use. And if you didn't have a brass one, you could just take a cheap, inexpensive plastic one and you could then spray paint with the same spray paint. So I think it really looks, it almost defies the eye. I really think it looks as if it's metal or carved wood or something. I love the textural contrasts. Now, truth be told, and this is my question of the day, you might want to wait till the end. I actually like this composition, which I'm going to embellish more, just this way. I like it with a lot of negative space, so it looks like nothing but wood and metal. I might add just a few leaves because I also spray painted some of these kind of cheesy, glittery leaves that I also took off. You can see, and I'm not so much against litter, but not this way. These look plastic and they just don't look real, and they certainly don't look expensive. So I took some of those, and using this same spray paint, I just put a veneer of color on them. Match as well. And then I could add just a few, or I could add a lot. We'll get to that later. It's just, do you want a lot of abundance or do you want something that's a little more simple? Now, ideally, well, let me just say, optimally for me, this is probably where I would stop. And it's hard to know when to stop. But I love the look of these leaves, and they lend kind of a softness that I think is really beautiful and a subtle elegance. But if you want more, and remember, autumn is all about abundance. If you want more and you want to add a little bit more color and a little bit more autumnal zhuzh, then you can do that by adding some gourds. So I think the key to the success, at least for me, of this arrangement, and by the way, there's no right way or wrong way, there's just what is kind of appealing to you, and sometimes they don't cooperate. There, I got it positioned how I wanted. But I think for me, the success of this is dependent on two things. It is blending the faux, in other words, the fake faux spray painted styrofoam remnants of that initial wreath with the real. So I am positioning some real gourds, these baby boo pumpkins, and I'm not exactly sure what type of pumpkin this is. Stuart, do you know?
Cool looking one.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, but I don't know what kind. But I am blending the real with the not real. And I think what that does is it elevates the beauty of both. The second key to this, I think, is that I am putting matte things that aren't shiny with things that are shiny. And I think the textural contrast, the light capturing contrast of that, I think is just really, really effective. And I also like the fact that you guys know I like punches of color, but I really kind of like a monochrome look.
It looks like a duck.
It kind of does look like a duck. A swan.
Swan. Yeah, there you go.
A swan. That's a little bit more. I'm trying to be elegant here, Stuart. So that's a little bit more elegant. Now, again, there's no right way or wrong way. Later, I'll come back and I'll position some leaves that these gourds sit upon as if they're floating on them. I will zhuzh this a million times once I get each component into place. But like I say, there's no one right way or wrong way. There is just what appeals to you according to what I think are some basic, maybe rules of composition. And it's always a delicate proposition because you will constantly knock things over. And that's okay. You'll notice that I'm not redoing this because I want you guys to see how things become unsettled, how I put them back into place. But once this composition is done, it's done pretty much until I change the centerpiece or I set the table or whatever. Obviously, case in point. Obviously, I will have to dust the table and things like that, but I'll just do that around the periphery. So I'm going to, this is like my first run at positioning these gourds. And you may ask, okay, so how do you know when you're finished? Well, for me, kind of how I know I'm finished is when I run out of time. The last step, of course, before lighting the candles, is to put my leaves in place. And I really like them to appear as if they have almost blown themselves into position. They look delicate, they look kind of ephemeral, and I think they really, really look elegant. Then with the candles lit, those things that I spray painted or that I put that clear enamel on really reflect the candlelight beautifully. So I think the end result will please not only me, the creator, but also any guests that might come into my home. Well, and here you go. If you've held on this long, here is my outfit of the day, starting with these really wonderful graphic angular earrings. These are Banana Republic.
I don't think I've seen those.
I have really been into Banana Republic's vibe this year. I have liked them a lot, and they've had some great sales. The top is just a lightweight sweater, but I like it because it's perfect transition from kind of warm to cool temps, and it's very comfortable, washable. Got this online. My bracelets, just an assortment. You guys know how I like to layer my bracelets. This is my most recent addition. I got this online. I will put the link below, and then these others are just an assortment of different ones that I wear all of the time. By the way, this one, you guys have seen it before, this little cuff.
Oh yeah.
I have had this for probably 40 years. because I got it when I worked at a gift shop called Nomi's Ark in Edmond many years ago. If any of you remember that gift shop, let me know. My breeches. Okay, this may be the best deal I've gotten all year. These are stretchy, skinny jeans. I know some people think they kind of have gone out, but I still really like them for certain kind of wardrobe profiles. These Banana Republic, $120, and I got them, I think, for $23. Pretty
Thrifty.
good deal. You know, Stuart, I'm cheap. Or thrifty. I like
Thrifty.
thrifty better. I know quality. And I have had these booties for a very long time. I couldn't even tell you where I got these. But I like them. And I think I like the color with my sweater. So there you go. There is my outfit du jour.